This video is about a weird thing you might see on the internet, much less lately, but you will easily, or at least more easily, see it being described in videos like this and also on websites. This has to do with key lime pie, as something you type in, maybe in quotes, and also a really weird word I'm going to pronounce badly, but Kutcharitaville and Kutchie, or Captain Kutchie. March 2008, you can see a Google Street View of what is maybe the only thing left on the internet of a building with a blue sign on it that says Key West. Now, this is at 2186 Hendersonville Highway. It's also given a different name, Route something something. And this is in North Carolina. And the area is called Arden, but when you look it up, it doesn't show it on maps sometimes. This is 8 miles south of Asheville. So you'll see Arden, Asheville, and other North Carolina locations. Also, Key West, and then presumably Florida being mentioned. The building was demolished sometime in July 2008, and you can see a Google Street View of a big dumpster out front where they were throwing pieces of it away. The building's leftovers became basically and possibly a foundation, the basis for a fence line in an enclosed area to store extras. This was originally Kutchie's, which is a nickname for somebody, Key West Cafe Bar and Grill. The part that says Cafe Bar and Grill was probably under it, and Kutchie's was above it. But I don't know. There aren't any contemporary images I could find of it before that date. Now, this is a building that was, again, it was demolished in 2008 by July. But in March, you can see what's left of the sign. It was in disrepair at that point. That building has been reused and repurposed for many purposes since then, and I haven't been able to see any images anywhere of what it looked like at the time. That would be something you'd have to find in local newspapers, where someone would be announcing possibly the opening of the store or reopening at one time if it closed down. Now, a 1994 newspaper listed it as the Kutchie's Key West Cafe Bar and Grill. I'm going to use that thing, slightly edited, as the thumbnail for the video. And again, I'm going to include both the very low contrast, foggy street view from like this side of the building almost, and the other one a little further down the road. Going any further one way or another doesn't improve the imaging of it, and this is again limited to March 2008 Google Street View. Did this location, however, also go by the name, I'll spell it out, Kutcharitaville, Kutcharitaville, like Margaritaville, Cafe, or Bar, or also, for some reason, other names like Cargo. Did it go into those names from 1978 to 2005? These are all references you find people using either tongue-in-cheek or they're being accurate. Now, why am I bringing this up? And why would this concern me? And it obviously does not. I am of no importance in this subject, and it's not relevant to the people who were originally there, the people who originally owned it. It really isn't. The reason for that is that this has nothing to do at all with the reality of this object, this building, the company, the people, none of it. The reason it has nothing to do with them is after the business went out of business in about 2008, people put up Groupons for the place when it was closed because anybody could do that at one point. And using various specific changes to the name or the mythology behind it. Why? This could be an example of people doing one-time pad encoded messages. Let me explain. Let's say I owned a business called Waptex Skateboarding in Oregon, Portland. Okay. The address and phone number, here are the things that could be used later. The phone number may or may not have been reused later. The address, in this case being a somewhat ambiguous one, may or may not be reused for another business. If a physical location was a business, like a town, that is no longer used, like it's an area where nobody's moved to, using an address and a phone number that nobody else is using is less of a fraudulent behavior, legally speaking, and less of a problem on websites that might police this sort of thing than it would be if it was a currently existing location that was now being used for, let's say, a Denny's, or a phone number that got reassigned to a person or business somewhere. Now, it lists on it, you'll see it in the thumbnail, a phone number. That phone number may or may not be reused. Now, here's why I'm saying that this might be used for some sort of open hangout, data transfer, one-time pad, numbers station type thing. Okay, let's just go for this, just because that's something people have brought up. That and the idea that it was used for laundering money or whatever. The keywords, key lime pie, pretty ordinary thing. And the name Kutchies. Kutchie, as a name for a business, is extremely common. It has to be very rare and nobody uses it, or really common and no one cares. Let's move on. Cafe, bar and grill, cargo, all sorts of really different words may be used as a way to have a certain number of combinations. Like if it says cafe, bar, grill, cargo, those are 4 combinations, 4 numbers, or 4 combos, or 4 things. That's 2 bits of data. QWyuf's going somewhere weird here. Stay with me for a minute. Calling it Key West, Florida could be another bit of data. If you're doing a fake posting about this in Rant and Rave department, people won't know what you're talking about, but saying it was in Key West, because that's actually the name of the business, but Florida might be a single bit change of data. So now we have 3 bits. Let's talk about it being Asheville or Arden. Let's make that another bit of data. So now we have 5 bits of data for communication. This seems like a really low bandwidth activity. Very little information. Haven't even got a full byte. Here we go for a little bit more. Talking about the key lime pie and raving about it, and also burgers. Burger or no burger mentioned. That's another bit. Did they mention, they have to mention Captain Kutchie's key lime pie. Did they use the word captain or not? Another bit of data. Could they also just say cafe, bar, grill, and cargo in your review? The idea here is you put in a set of certain keywords and see if the words are used and how often, and how that store data. Now, the reason I'm entertaining this idea is this is an actual thing done on the internet to use really big postings to contain relatively small amounts of information in a way that is almost impossible to damage, fantastically easy to retrieve, and in this case would be searchable through any search engine to find these references by looking up any entry that had changed over the last 6 months. You could have somebody put up a blogger page, and every couple of weeks they put up their secret message to whoever's listening and put up a rave about this, and you can see, does it mention the address as being 2186 Hendersonville? Or does it use the highway number instead? That's another bit of data. Does it mention, the 2 people who are supposed to be there? Anita and Oswald. Or just Kutchie. Kutchie being a nickname for Oswald, which doesn't make any sense. Or do they include the last name as Pelaez? Pelaez? And is it Jr.? Because that's the person that's supposed to be Oswald Pelaez Jr. Do they mention his beautiful wife or some other words? These keywords would act as individual bits of data, or maybe something else, like a combination or an expression that would be used, like Captain Kutchie's key lime pie. Rolls off the tongue, just like the vomit. But anyway, you could do that. The reason I'm entertaining this is this a common way for people to secretly communicate over the internet? And if you're not aware of it, since this really kind of got off the ground in 2009, right after the location was bulldozed. And it was mentioned, someone said, they took down the Key West sign, the blue Key West sign here. What is that about? And someone talked about it. Someone cut and pasted it, maybe by accident, for their feeder for the little bot routine, and started using it all over the place on blogs. And then after that, people started making fun of it. So now we got trolls making fun of it, and then whoever's supposed to be receiving the information is running into bullshit done by, I don't know, fan service freaks. But the point is, was this ever a way people communicate? Since this started in 2009, and since secret types of communication that work much more efficiently and are even harder to detect are more common at that time, because they really were, no. I don't believe this was really used as a way to secretly communicate in a real way. I believe people picked up on this, posted it under the presumption it's like a numbers station thing where you do this sort of like an alternate reality game or a trolling activity or whatever. Sort of like posting the entire B-movie script, the B movie, it's a cartoon, posting the entire script for it, just because it's something to do to annoy people. But here's the question I have, a couple of them. Number one, having a location like this have a very small footprint somehow, if it existed since the 1970s, and have it have very few people care about it enough to post any real reviews or talks about it for real, very few, but some did, is completely expected. There's a location where I grew up. We did a similar joke about it. There was a building that was a bar and grill, and it had a restaurant in it. And it was still listed as a restaurant for legal reasons. But eventually it was just boarded up, and it was always listing this way. And it kept being listed because people would add it in. And yes, they would write reviews about the excellent food there, whatever, and send it in as a way to mess with people who were restaurant reviewers in the area. Because I grew up in an area where a snobby restaurant reviewer is somebody you troll all the time. Trolling is not a new thing. It's not an internet thing either. This has been around for a while. And we would make fun of the fact that we'd be downtown in my little town. It's 1 mile across, about the same size as this one. Arden. And they'd show up and like, where's the restaurant? Which restaurant? This restaurant. I got to be there once. The one time it was open when I was still a kid. And it served pretty average stuff, just like any other place that would serve, meat and potatoes meals. Perfectly adequate. But you'd get people coming by later on after it went out of business. Where is it? So we'd have fun with them. Because there's a lot of busted down buildings in my little town. Teeny little town still had them. We give them you gotta write it down, because this town has we tell them, there's a bunch of roads that have been blindsided by being closed off because of reasons. We just make up shit. And they get them going back and forth. Yes, we were cruel little kids. And eventually the person come back, you sent me on a wild goose chase. And I was like, welcome to town. I'm not going to say the town name, but welcome to my hometown. You asked a kid with an impish look on his face. It wasn't necessarily me. But yeah, that's a thing. And that's a thing in many small towns, because you'll have this well-established business that's been in place for a long time, and then when they leave, it goes into immediate disrepair and starts falling apart, because they're practically pushing it up every day with sticks and stuff. I mean, it's what happens when you're running a business sometimes. So it's a seafood restaurant. It wasn't burger joint. It wasn't known for key lime pies. It was listed in 1994 as a successful business. It ran an ad. And there may not have been anybody named Pelaez, Anita Oswald, or Kutchie, or anybody, and it may never have actually really existed at the form you might have looked up. Now, why am I doing this video? Down below is a compressed version of most of the stuff you'd have to look up, including a bunch of archives going to people talking about synopses of it, if you're looking it up. The other reason is, I just like saying, Captain Kutchie's key lime pie. It sounds cool. And next, the hunk of dirt is available to buy, probably. Someone should just set up a pie shop there and just have fun with it. That way it'd show up on Google Street View and we could keep the meme going. and also screw it up if it really is somebody communicating secretly by having real reviews for once. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.